a very deep feeling of joy, a very deep feeling of sadness, a very deep feeling of happiness, a very strong knowing. Where's that coming from? This is you. This is who you truly are. This is subconscious. Subconscious was first in the life. Look at that baby, that infant. You as a parent, look at that child. Look into its eyes. You will see subconscious. Watch the child as it grows. Look into the eyes. You will still see subconscious. The love the child has for you. When the child forms the conscious shell, subconscious has that same love for the conscious. It's unconditional love. We have found ways to communicate with subconscious. It's not the brain, it's not the responses that are coming because of certain stimuli. It's choices that subconscious is making. Wanting to help. Cares so deeply, so profoundly. Because it loves you. Your subconscious is where all these deep feelings come from. Your subconscious has the answers you seek. It's all the answers we all seek. Your subconscious really does care. That's who subconscious is.
Ultra depth is a technique that helps people to be in relationship with themselves in a very profound and meaningful way that creates life changes for the highest good. Not only does it affect that person, but it affects their family, their co-workers, their neighborhood. Everyone who comes in contact with them is the better when people can relax and know themselves, because that core, the subconscious, is where our integrity is, where our inspiration, where our creativity lies.
The understanding of the mind model with the ultra depth, as well as some of the other readings I have done, I think is more accurate than what's usually in the textbooks and what's usually being taught at a lot of places.
Let's talk about what are the requirements for hypnosis. There are actually 3 requirements. The first requirement is the consent of the individual. Now that can be in 2 different ways. That can be either tacit, which is direct consent, them giving you verbal permission, or even written permission, or it could be implied. Implied consent is if that person comes, say you have an office, a practice, they come to you. That is consent. I myself, even though people come to me, I like to also have it in writing, that they're giving me consent to work with them. To me, it's very important to have it on many different levels. So that person who is coming to you has given you their full and complete consent. It's very important in the communication, in the rapport building. The next is just that, communication between the operator and the client. Communication is very important. If you're going to be working with a person in an altered state of consciousness, and that's what hypnosis is, It's very important that you and the other person communicate very clearly. Everything must be fully understood. And then the final one, of course, is freedom from fear. There are many different movies where hypnosis is brought into the movie. And of course, sometimes Hollywood has stretched the facts. There are books that are written. Some of them are just fiction. No basis of facts whatsoever. And then, of course, there's also the neighbor who knows everything about everything and has never even picked up a book or seen any hypnosis performed, but they have an opinion and they're giving it to you, you being the potential client. These things have to be cleared up. There are many myths that have to be dispelled. What hypnosis is to each person is very individual. Their experience is individual. It is not the same with each and every person. It's very important that when you're working with people that you get them to understand this. I do not tell them that, oh, well, you may feel a tingling, you may find yourself feeling like you're drifting or floating, because I don't know what they're going to feel, what they're going to experience. I let them tell me as the session progresses. It's very, very important to understand that you also must educate that person. You have to work to dispel these myths, these false beliefs. The fact is that each person will experience hypnosis differently, even at the exact same depth. Some people, well, they may experience visual effects. Some people not. Some people feelings. Some people may not experience either. At some levels of depth, the person may even believe they fell asleep. Now let's talk about what a person has to achieve in order for hypnosis to actually take hold. The first thing that I find is eye fatigue. Dave Ellman himself made this very important, made it very clear. The next element is eye closure. Can hypnosis occur with the eyes open? Oh, yes, it can happen. There are many people in sports who enter an altered state. They call it the zone. The runner, for example, when the runner is in the zone, that runner has altered his or her state of consciousness. They have entered a state of hypnosis. It happens to each and every person. When you're watching a movie and you're so engrossed in this movie that the background seems to fade away, disappear. Your attention is totally focused on what's happening on the screen. You now become emotionally involved in it. You are in a hypnotic state. When you're watching television, guys, watching some sports game, and maybe your mate comes in and says, honey, what would you like for lunch? And you go, uh-huh. Honey, would you like a sandwich? Uh-huh. Honey, the house is burning down. Uh-huh. Soon as the commercial comes on, you go, what was that you said, dear? You've now exited the hypnotic state. When you were going, uh-huh, uh-huh. You heard. But your focus and attention was on what was happening on that television screen. Did you see the surroundings in the room? You're focused on that screen. Here, you are in a state of hypnosis. Yes, it does occur with eyes open. But when you're doing any kind of therapeutic work, you need eye closure. The next thing that happens, and the client must be able to achieve this, is relaxation. And there's two types: physical relaxation and mental relaxation. For work to be done, deep work, work that's going to be long-lasting, you must achieve both elements of relaxation. It's very important. Now let's talk about something else. Use of numbers in hypnosis. Why do we use numbers? Once we have achieved eye fatigue, eye closure, and relaxation, what do we want to do? Well, we want to deepen that state. It's very important to deepen once we have hypnosis. We want to work to get that person to the most deepest possible level that they can achieve. Now, earlier we talked about the brain. The brain, I said, was a CPU, just like a computer. And the CPU, just like the computer, works with numbers. All the information stored in the brain, even though if we stimulate it, we get an emotional response, it's still numbers. Memory. I remember this. It's numbers. Anything where the brain kicks in, it's processing by numbers, just like that CPU. Now in school, we learned something as we were a child. And remember, the child, being subconscious, begins to program that brain. What does the child learn about numbers? Well, it learns to count. When you first were taught to use numbers and you walked up to a blackboard, the teacher said to you, "Johnny, I want you to write the numbers from 1 down to 10, and that's what they said. And what did you do? You wrote downward on the blackboard. If you had a list of items and then were asked to number them, you start with the number 1 at the top of the blackboard and worked your way down, each time increasing the numbers. As you increase the numbers, you're increasing the value. Now, this is very important. When we have had the person to enter a state of hypnosis, to deepen, we're asking for more. More what? More relaxation. If we take and use this system, I found that we can get depth much quicker, utilizing what was programmed by subconscious into the brain. And that is the value of numbers. 1, we start with. That's what we started with when we wrote on the blackboard. That's the first number. We want to increase, of course, it's 2. We want to increase more, 3. Isn't 3 much more than 1? We could go further. We can go from 1 all the way down to 5. We're moving down the blackboard. The brain has this information. The brain can relate to these things. The more we utilize what the brain has already inside, the less of an obstacle we're going to have. We can remove simple obstacles simply by using what is already there. I know that many other practitioners count different ways. Some may count from 5 down to 1, or 3 down to 1 to deepen. Some may count 1 down to 3 to deepen. At the same time, to exit, they will still count 1 down to 3. Some will count 3 down to 1 to deepen. To exit the state, they will still count 3 down to 1. Doesn't make sense. We want to keep it simple, logical, what the brain has. If we're counting from 1 down to 5, increasing the numbers, increasing the relaxation, increasing the depth, to exit, we want to reverse count. What we want to do then is change things. So if we count from 1 down, we want to change and count from 5 or 3 up. Deepening and the exit should not be the same. To deepen, we should increase the number. We'll get greater depth much quicker. To exit, we want to bring them back to 1. Doing this process is what helped me to understand and achieve greater depth at a greater speed with more of my subjects and clients. When I first learned hypnosis, I was taught to count the other way. I wasn't getting the depth that I should be getting. I didn't understand. When I changed my method of counting, I was surprised how many people I was able to help them to achieve greater depths at a whole lot less time. So again, let's talk about this value. So it's 1 or 3. Which is deeper? Which is more? Which does the brain have? The brain knows that the larger number is a greater value. It's very simple. 1 or 5, which is greater? Of course, 5 is greater. Our money shows this. 1 or 10. And why shouldn't we go beyond 10? Well, let's look at what digits we have in front of us all the time. We have 10. We have 5. We can double. We have 3. We can triple. The brain is very funny. The brain doesn't work beyond 10. The brain can't do 100, can't do 1,000, but the brain can do 10 times 10. Now we understand that. We interpret that as 100. If we ask a person, and I've done this many times with my students as well as clients, I've said, I want you to picture 1 penny. Just imagine 1 penny. And they say, yeah, they have that. So, okay, now how about 3? Yeah, they have that. I say, all right, 5, they have that. I say 10. Okay, that's easy. Do 100. They can't do that. It kind of blends and fades out. It's too much. But I can say, all right, how about just 1 pile of 10? Can you do that? Yes, they can see that 1 pile of 10. All right, how about 10 of those piles? They can do that. Can they do 100? No. So why create obstacles? Why don't we work with what's there? It's in front of us. It's been there all of our lives. We can double it. We can triple it. We can do 10 times 10. Makes it very simple. The best methods I've found for deepening are 1 down to 3, and then work progressively. Then 1 down to 5. Well, let's use that, and let's double that. And 1 down to 5 again, and we can triple that. Now let's increase it even further and go 1 down to 10. Now we can go 1 down to 10 and double that. 1 down to 10 and triple that. We have deepened a lot. The brain relates to numbers. If we create different methods that the person can relate to, the method of numbers removes obstacles. The more we have to have the conscious mind follow visualizations, keep stimulating the conscious mind, we will not have that person achieve a deep state of hypnosis. The more conscious has to think, the less deeper state we'll achieve. Numbers are simple. They're easy. Very simple methods of deepening. And if we use them the way the brain already has that, pre-installed, we will get greater depth. Understand that the most important item here is the utilization of numbers for depth. I've found just counting, utilizing numbers, has gotten depth with people greater than any other method. I want to talk now about abreactions. Abreactions are very important to understand about because an abreaction can occur at any time. When a person goes into hypnosis and they relax and let go, sometimes some things that they've suppressed for a long time may come up. Be aware that working in deep state, this can happen. It's nothing to be alarmed about. As a matter of fact, in some cases, it's an emotional purging, and they need to bring this up. It is nothing more than a suppressed bad memory, something they've been holding back. It's like a pot of water that's boiling with the lid that is locked down tight, and it's still boiling away. Pressure's being built up. You provide them with the opportunity to release and let go. What's very important, though, you have ways of controlling abreactions by saying things like pleasant, contented thoughts going through your mind and marvelous, wonderful feelings flowing throughout your body will actually quell an abreaction. Sometimes a person may think that they're unable to breathe. They can't breathe, even though they are. You must bring their attention to that fact that they are breathing. They are breathing fine. Some people may come up and say, I can't see, I'm blind. All you have to do is say, just relax deeper. Let those eyes close. Relax even deeper. When you open your eyes, coming all the way up, you'll be able to see the colors so much more vivid, all the hues, all the contrasts so much clearer, sharper, seeing even better than you've ever seen before. Many different things can happen. First of all, remain calm. You can think your way through situations. Look how the person is reacting. Listen to how they're responding. You remain calm. If you remain calm, they will not react in such a way to where the situation will get out of hand. It's really up to you. Your actions denote their reactions to whatever they're suppressing. But remember, it's always good to allow these pinned up emotions to come forward, to exercise them. And now you can let them go. Abreactions are important. Understand what they're about. Do not be afraid of them. What you're doing is venting, helping them to vent emotions, memories, things that they've held back for so long. You're giving them the opportunity that they may never ever have in any other situation. Learn to help the person, guide them through. Be aware of what you say. If you give too many visualizations to people, that you may think that are totally harmless, but to that individual, remember what these people have said in state. Things become very clear, and the deeper they go, the clearer they become. Be very careful what you say. Qualify the people that you're working with. Take a good intake and make sure that they don't have any fears, such as, of high places, of water, of flying, of different items. If a person has fear of water, you don't want to guide them near water. That's why it's important to take a good intake. Understand what you're working with. Be aware that your words can help to create images. And those images may just be something that will stir a suppressed bad memory. So keep things positive. Keep things pleasant. Never do anything to anyone or say anything to anyone that you would not want done to you or said to you in hypnosis or even in the waking state.
Ultra depth is also very different because of the levels of depth that you're able to achieve. I've worked with clients and myself with meditation and different kinds of modalities, and I found nothing that approximates the level of depth that you achieve with ultra depth. And I think that's for many reasons. Number one, ultra depth is really a state of the subconscious. It's really the conscious mind has to let go and get out of the way because it's the subconscious that does all the work. And in essence, how we do that in ultra depth is we have a different understanding with how the brain works and its inner workings with the mind. And that's one thing, implementing those. Also in terms of how James Ramey has come up with the way that we count in ultra depth. That's extremely different from traditional hypnosis. And I think it's much more powerful and it makes more sense and it helps us achieve a greater level of depth.
Now, before we even perform hypnosis, there's two things that are very important. Suggestibility exercises. And why do I call that an exercise? First of all, if we call them tests, like have been called for, 100 years, it makes it harder for the person to be successful. But if we say exercise, we can even do finger exercises. Anybody can do an exercise. I'm doing lift exercises. Anything, any kind of movement is an exercise. So if we say suggestibility exercise, what we're talking about, we are checking their suggestibility, seeing if the person is able to follow us, getting certain information from there. The information will tell us whether the person is an authoritative type person. Are they a passive or permissive type person? This tells us what type of inductions to use. Now, we also use the term pre-induction exercise. The pre-induction means it's immediately followed by an induction into hypnosis. So we use these exercises to give us a lot of information. And it goes like this. Now, this one is called contracting fingers. I want you to take your hands, interlock your fingers. Make sure the heel of your palms are squeezed tightly. Index fingers straight out. Raise the thumb that's on top. Stare at your thumbnail. Pull your index fingers a ½ inch apart. And now just imagine that there's a magnetic force pulling your fingers closer and closer together as it gets stronger and stronger. As soon as they touch, look up at me. Thank you. Now, different people have different rates of how this is going to take place. When we're done, I'll explain all this to you. Okay, same thing. Interlock your fingers tightly. Index fingers out. Raise the thumb on top. Stare at that thumbnail. Pull the index fingers a ½ inch apart. And now you find that there's a strong magnetic force between those two index fingers. Pull them closer and closer together as it gets stronger and stronger. Stronger and stronger. Soon they'll touch. As soon as they touch, look right up at me. Very good. Thank you. Okay. Interlock your fingers. Index fingers out. Raise the thumb on top. Stare at that thumbnail. Pull your index fingers a ½ inch apart. Now you find there's a strong magnetic force, and see how fast they come together. Now, let's explain. Drop your hands into your lap. Thank you. Let's explain what actually takes place here. All right, what we're doing is something very important. Interlock your fingers tightly. What we're doing here is making sure, show them, that the hand, the base, the heel of the hands are interlocked, tight, touching, okay? Now I want you to take and put out your 2 index fingers.